The biggest ever showdown on live television when Donald Trump, the US president, met Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the Ukrainian president, at the Oval Office last evening. We were expecting global headlines, but what we didn't expect was the public spat, the showdown in front of the cameras, while reporters just watched as diplomats on both sides sat in shock and astonishment about what just happened. Here is a short clip. It's a 4-minute clip. The entire conversation was about 46 minutes, about 7 to 8 minutes of a confrontation that was on camera. But the critical 4 minutes of what happened between Donald Trump and Zelenskyy, listen in.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count one.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards.
Cards.
Right now, you don't. You're playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's backed you far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you can...
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I answer?
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
you
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion. We gave you military equipment, and your men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days. I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
maybe
new.
Less.
In 2 weeks. Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
Again,
I tell you.
Just say thank you.
Said a lot of
except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards. You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. You got to be more thankful. Because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
Okay, that was the flare-up. 46 minutes, and let me go across as we get pictures. In fact, there are some breaking details coming in before I go across. Kamal Sibal joining us on the show. I have some pictures coming in from the UK. After what happened in Washington, Zelenskyy has landed in London. Those are pictures of his plane that landed in London earlier this evening. And that's his first stop after America. He lands in the UK. And in London, he was received by politicians in the UK, the ruling party. And he will spend time at 10 Downing Street. He will be meeting the UK government. And on Sunday, he's got a debrief with the European Union on what really went down with Trump at the Oval Office. I have Kamal Sibal. Kamal Sibal is a former Foreign Secretary of India. He's also served as an ambassador to many countries, including Russia, which makes it very, very interesting. Mr. Sibal, I was shocked when I saw what happened there, but I'm not surprised. I was shocked, but not surprised. I'd like to know, what came to your mind when you saw that face-off?
Well, I was shocked and surprised. I didn't think that Zelenskyy will play his cards so badly. There was no need for him to get into an argument with President Trump and Vice President Vance in front of the cameras. If there was disagreement, if he didn't like some of the things that the President and Vance said, he should have parried that in front of the cameras. After that, there was going to be a meeting between the two delegations. There he could have explained his position and said some of the things that he said in public. But getting into an argument, trying to contradict the President of the United States and JD Vance, and also using language which is objectionable. Maybe he thinks he knows the English language well, but he used some very wrong words. He told Vice President Vance that you are talking loudly about the war, and that just irritated the Vice President. And then he says the astonishing thing that we were alone in fighting this war, which is totally contrary to facts. And then when when President Trump said about the war will end in a few days or something like that, he contradicted him, surprisingly, saying that, Putin said that it would end in 3 days and that sort of stuff. I mean, he reduced the conversation on a very serious matter, which involves the future of his country, to such a low level of entering into a debate with the biggest benefactor of Ukraine and trying to win the argument, winning brownie points. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't know. You see, the point is that he has been lionized so much, even in the United States. He has gone and addressed the U.S. Congress, where he has received repeated applause. He has been feted by President Biden. He's been feted by all European leaders. It's gone to his head. He's been rude to a lot of people who have reacted and expressed their disappointment with him and have shot back. President Macron of France, President of Poland, Olaf Scholz, Chancellor of Germany, the Russian, the British Defense Secretary. All of them have suffered at his hands because he's been very aggressive and very demanding. As if you see, the point is he thinks he has become a star. And the line that he has taken so far has brought him a lot of dividends. And his line is that I'm not fighting only for myself, I'm fighting for Europe, and I'm fighting for the free world. And therefore, the subtext is that you owe it to me. You are not supporting only me, you are supporting yourself. And this is what he was trying to say to President Trump, which annoyed him a great deal, that you think that you are not, you are immune from this because you have the ocean between you, but suggesting that, you can be a victim also of a Russian war, which of course annoyed President President Trump a great deal. So it was totally mishandled, and frankly, I don't know how he's going to get out of it. He has now tweeted and said how much thankful he is to the United States and this and that and that. But he has been exposed. Remember, he was also rude to our Prime Minister when Mr. Modi went there. because he tried to dictate to him what kind of policy we should follow, and we should sign the Swiss communique before India can hope to provide Delhi as a kind of a platform for the two sides to begin together. So he's a bad diplomat, far too sure of himself, totally spoiled by the West, by Europe in particular, and the United States before this administration. And therefore he feels that he can make this show, this bravado, and everybody will appreciate it, that here is a small Ukraine fighting against this big Russian power. People have actually, the Europeans have said that he is a Churchill. The kind of things that they have been saying. There's nothing Churchillian about him, if you ask me. In short, It was totally mishandled situation by Zelenskyy, and he's burnt his boats, I think, with the United States.
Mr. Sibal, in fact, even in the tweet, there's another bit of breaking update that I'm getting in on the show right now. He tweeted some time back, and he's not completely apologetic yet. Meanwhile, Starmer has called for an emergency Ukraine summit. So the Europe and the UK scrambling now after the disaster at the White House. Zelenskyy is going to attend the emergency Ukraine summit. So Europe knows that there is no option left for Ukraine except for them now. And they, of course, have political differences with Trump, but they know they cannot ignore Trump. But it appears that UK and the European Union are rallying completely behind Zelenskyy. Okay, meanwhile, what started as a formal 46-minute meeting in the Oval Office turned into a showdown. It's been caught on camera. For 30 minutes almost, US President Donald Trump
and Ukrainian President Zelenskyy exchanged measured words until the US Vice President JD Vance lit the fuse. Now, his sharp interjection shattered the calm, triggering a clash that saw him intervene at least 12 times. 12 times Vance intervened, escalating tensions to a boiling point. Zelenskyy pushed back at least 9 times. And in the final 3 minutes, diplomacy completely collapsed. That's when all hell broke loose. Trump and Zelenskyy locked in a fierce public spat, traded verbal blows in a moment that will define US-Ukraine relations for years to come. What happens from here on? Let me go back to Ambassador Sibal for a short response, Ambassador, before I play out more videos that I have. Of course, everyone in Russia are having the last laugh, but it has been clear from the beginning that Ukraine has been provoked. We've covered the war. In fact, Zelenskyy gave an interview to Arnab as well, in the middle of the war. And it's been very clear that he was provoked by Biden regime. He was provoked by some European powers to start this war in the first place. We knew it was going to happen. And when it did, there was no going back. It appeared like they just kept feeding and feeding and feeding over nearly $500 billion. What next, in your view? Where do you see this going now with world powers taking sides?
Well, there are no world powers taking sides. It's basically Europe that is fully supporting Zelenskyy. Kaja Kallas, the EU foreign policy chief, has said, to my mind rather absurdly, that the free world now needs a new leader, which means the United States is no longer the leader of the free world. Then who will be the leader of the free world? The EU foreign policy chief, the Chancellor of Germany, President Macron of France? Who will be? Frankly, the Europeans, to my mind, are playing their cards, having lost the trump card, if I may say so. The most important and most vital relationship Europe has is the transatlantic alliance, the alliance with the United States of America. The Europe is totally dependent on the United States for their security under NATO. And who drives NATO? It is the United States of America. And most of the arms that the European powers have are American arms. And as I said, their trade is voluminous. So for them to sacrifice the transatlantic relationship, even through this kind of rhetoric in favor of Zelenskyy, doesn't make sense. I mean, Zelenskyy is important to Europe in order to fight Russia. And that has been the objective of the Biden administration, to strategically defeat Russia, in which Europe participated, because it would have been, from the European point of view, to the advantage of Europe itself if Russia became militarily weak. But the moment the United States has changed its policy and wants to engage Russia and settle the conflict and have peace, the Europeans, which put their entire eggs in the Biden basket, don't know what to do. And they are compelled to support Zelenskyy for the time being. Otherwise, they'll be answerable to their own public opinion. And it would appear that they are total poodles, because when Biden wanted them to confront Russia through Ukraine, they did so. And when Trump wants to go in the reverse direction, they are following Trump. They can't do that.
Yeah.
They have to make this show. But to imagine that they can have enough security, enough defense capability in the foreseeable future is ridiculous, because they can spend more money, but they have to produce weapons. And this takes a few years. It's not a question of the next few weeks or months when the Ukraine conflict will be decided one way or the other. And their economies are in serious trouble.
Yes.
So they don't have those kind of funds either. So I think Europe needs to seriously rethink its position and not become irrelevant to geopolitics, not only in Europe, but also globally. It is doing a lot of damage to European reputation, that they can't think of peace. They can only think of war.
Kamal Sibal, thank you for joining us on This Is Exclusive. I want to now show you the pictures of, the different meetings that led to this moment. When on the 25th of February, Donald Trump met Macron, there was a little bit of a heated moment there as well. And on the 27th of February, Trump met Starmer of the UK. And on 28th, of course, Zelenskyy. So in those 4 to 5 days, it appeared that Donald Trump was keen on pushing hard diplomatically. And you look at the sequence of events, whether Zelenskyy was set up, whether he took the bait is another question. When US met the Russian delegation in Saudi Arabia, and then Trump went on to call Zelenskyy a dictator, a comedian, etc., and a bad one at that. Met Macron, Starmer, and then, of course, Zelenskyy. The final showdown. It was all falling in a sequence. It all fell in place, and he took the bait. What Trump has done this week, once again, that meeting between him and Macron, and then he met Starmer on the 27th. Those are the pictures when, there was a little bit of a confrontation between JD Vance and Starmer there as well, when they discussed free speech and the clampdown on social media in the UK. And then, of course, the big meeting with Zelenskyy, and it went out of hand, out of control at the Oval Office. JD Vance played a big role in that meeting, in that showdown last evening. That's him there. He intervened several times during that conversation. I'm playing that video out on how JD Vance lit that match up inside the Oval Office.
I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems? With respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Okay, that's it on this edition of This Is Exclusive. We have some more breaking news updates on the show. It's the biggest and most talked about story today across the world, with every political leader, head of state taking sides on this issue. We will focus on that at 9 p.m. on The Burning Question. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching.
इसको घर पे लगाओगे तो शादी का तो पता नहीं।